Hello, viewers. Welcome to another episode on the Little Fella Sports Podcast. So today we're just doing a small mid-series review of how the T20 internationals have gone so far. In the first T20 international, India had a very poor start to their innings, and then the pattern just continued, and we just kept losing wickets at regular intervals, and we ended up putting up a very underpar score on that batting duty, and England chased that down pretty comfortably. Second T20, we handed out debuts to Ishan Kishan and Surya Kumar Yadav, and the arrival of new personnel brought about a change in our approach as well, as we were able to chase down a pretty good target in quick time. Today, there was a lot of expectations as to who Rohit Sharma would replace in the team, but unfortunately, it was Surya Kumar Yadav who had to miss out on another well-deserved chance. But India faced the same problems again as the first T20 international. The power play was very under par, and we just could not get the runs on the board in the first 6 overs. That prevented the middle overs aggression from the middle order batsmen like Pant and Shreyas Iyer. And in the end, it was actually a Herculean effort from Virat Kohli to take us all the way up to 150 plus. But England chased that target down pretty easily. So a lot of questions going into the T20 International regarding India's combinations, but I think after three T20s, it is safe to say that we still have a lot of answers left. Anirudh, your initial thoughts on how the three T20s have gone so far?
I mean, you've covered it pretty well, actually. I think it's been more of win the toss, win the game kind of scenario. You generally see you see patterns like this where teams win the toss, you see them go on to win the games. But here you could generally see pitch play a massive role in terms of batting in the initial period when you bat first isn't the easiest, and then the pitch is slightly slower as well. I don't know whether it's down to the dew factor or something, but the pitch really gets fast. I mean, at least slightly better towards in the second innings, and teams generally chase down. Whatever the total may be. I mean, so far we've seen first game was obviously 125 chase, but the last two games we've seen 150, 160 being chased down very comfortably. I mean, England could have finished it like India if they wanted to by 15, 16 overs. They just dragged it to the end, and they were never under pressure really. I mean, it was a very comfortable chase, and I think pitch and the toss has obviously played a massive factor in terms of where the games have ended. But as you mentioned, we start off the T20 series with a number of questions over a number of spots, but it's fair to say that if not as many, there's probably more questions now left to be answered in terms of selection, and of course heading everything in the series by done by both teams is obviously in view with the World T20 coming up towards the end of the year. So yeah, it's been a decent start. I think India's performances have been okay so far. I mean, there are a few concerns clearly, but I mean you're facing England, who are definitely the best white ball side going around at the moment. So it's been a decent start to the series overall.
Yeah, as you pointed out, definitely we are left with more questions than answers compared to where we were a week back before the first T20 started. But going forward, I think England came into this T20 series looking to settle down on a combination that would be very useful for them in the T20 World Cup in India in about 6 to 8 months' time. But one factor where England have actually outplayed India is they've actually assessed the conditions better than India from my point of view. They've always had one or two hit the deck bowlers who've run in hard with that new ball and have managed to get that extra bounce. India, even though they have Saini in the ranks, they've persisted with, I would say, three similar bowlers in Hardik Pandya, Bhuvneshwar Kumar, and Shardul Thakur. We saw Hardik Pandya actually bending his back today and generating that extra bounce, and he was trying to bowl 140. But we can only imagine what another Saini would have done on this wicket. Even though he is a little erratic, he's proven to be a little erratic, but at the end of the day, he's the guy with the extra height, and you probably back him to get that extra bounce. So, do you think India, more than the batting, are they a little rigid with their bowling options?
I mean, of course, Jasprit Bumrah is missing out, and Natarajan is obviously not yet fit either. So, obviously, in terms of first choices, you could even say that Virat Kohli probably looks at Mohammad Shami as one of his first choice T20 bowlers, although I disagree in terms of him being one of the first choice ones. But it's fair to say India missed a couple of the key bowlers in this format. But I agree with your observations in terms of I genuinely feel Navdeep Saini should be given a go, especially because you've got Bhuvneshwar Kumar. I think you can play three fast bowlers. I mean, I don't see the need of playing an extra batsman at the moment, but I think they're playing the extra batsman to give chances to the likes of, I mean, Ishan, Surya, all these guys. They want to, because they probably feel that the bowling lineup, once the guys, whoever are not playing right now, are back, you kind of know who is going to play from 8 to 11, right? I don't think the question marks are really over the bowling attack. It's more to do with the batting and who bats where, and in terms of which player suits which situation and which role. I think it's more to do with that, and that's probably why they're fitting in the extra batsman at the moment. But I agree. I am impressed with the way Shardul has improved the last 12 months, especially. He's definitely got a lot better in terms of pace as well as variety. He used to be a knuckleball merchant, which was very poor, to be honest. I didn't rate him before, but he's generally improved quite a lot. But I still believe that someone like Navdeep Saini can be giving games. I wouldn't be surprised to see him and Deepak Chahar come in for the next game because they've obviously not gotten games, and we've given these couple of guys. Bhuvneshwar obviously won pretty well, especially today. He looked very good with the new ball. But I think it's fair to give Navdeep and Deepak Chahar a couple of games as well as we come to the end of the series. I think we'll see Rahul Chahar also definitely being given a game in the next one. So I think when it comes to bowling, yeah, I think you would have to say the two games where India defended total, India was short with the bat. First game, absolutely no question. 125 on any wicket is impossible to defend, close to impossible to defend on any wicket. And today also, despite Virat Kohli's amazing innings, I think India was significantly at least down by 20 runs, especially knowing that the batting gets easier in the second innings. India needed to start much better. They obviously had the collapse at the start again, once again, similar to the first game. I just feel that India fell short with the bat more than the ball. I think Chahal's performance is slightly worrying. I mentioned that actually in the preview. I'm interested to see how Chahal does against this England attack because I genuinely feel Chahal's been played very well by England before, and this the first three games have been slightly concerning on that point of view. But yeah, I think it's the question marks are definitely there, but I think I still got to back Chahal, a world class bowler in this format, and I think he'll get it right eventually. But I agree with your thing in terms of our bowling. You could add a little bit of extra pace to just get a bit of variety because you saw Hardik do well. I mean, that was a positive. Definitely, he was cranking nearly 140. So after all those injury issues, it's nice to see him getting best close to his very best when it comes to the bowling.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the biggest positives from these three T20s is that Hardik is able to bowl 4 overs. I think in all the three games, we've put the pressure on him and he's responded well. He's tried his best to bowl consistent lines and lengths, and he's actually done the job in the middle overs from my point of view, at least in the last three games. So that is a good sign. I think once Hardik and Jadeja both are available, I think Jadeja at 7 is pretty much confirmed. Even if he's not giving you 4 overs, you just back him for the batting that he can provide. And Hardik at 6 and Pant at 5 gives you a good lower middle order that can actually really flourish, and you can use all three of them as floaters depending on the
And
situation. So that
also,
really
one
gives.
thing I want to add: long term, I think India will definitely want to play with six bowlers. I don't think, especially in a world tournament, India will go in with five bowlers. These five bowlers, as I mentioned earlier, is simply to fit in as many batsmen as they can because the question marks are all when it comes to batting: who plays where and which position, which role. So they want to fit in as many bats as possible. So but when it comes to the actual tournament, 100% you will see a Jadeja walk into the team at number 7. I think that this is just a short term move to tried a few things, but long term, I agree with you in terms of Jadeja definitely walking back into the team, and rightly so as well. He's been very good with the bat, especially recently in T20s.
Yeah, definitely going into a T20 game with just five bowlers really limits the captain's options. At best, he's probably thinking, where do I bowl my weakest bowler? So if there is an option, if there is a guy who can bowl 2 to 3 overs, I think that provides flexibility to the captain, and he can actually decide when and how to use his weaker bowlers. I think that particular flexibility is definitely lacking in this team. That is where we are actually seeing the extra batsman in someone like Shreyas Iyer or Ishan Kishan play in the 11. We actually don't have. I don't think there's another all rounder apart from Akshar Patel in the lineup. In the squad. So there's absolutely no use in stacking your team with so many all rounders if they're not going to make it eventually. At least it's better if you try out a possible number 4 option. Um, I think we have to do a small segment on Virat Kohli because the first game, he walked the talk. We talked about this that whenever Kohli talks about a change in approach or whenever Kohli talks about something new in Indian cricket, he's the first one to adorn it. And the fact that he just wanted to hit every ball in that first T20 but couldn't middle much, I think it was a good sign that he was ready to take the aggressive approach. He nailed a good chase with Ishan Kishan and Rishabh Pant in the second game, and today He had to stick his head out for the the mini collapse that we had at the top, and had to play right through the innings, and ended up scoring a really brisk 77 with some crisp strokes, and vintage Kohli was back. So, how would you rate Kohli's performance over the last three T20s?
Yeah, I actually told you separately also. I told you that even though Kohli got out for a duck in the first game, I mean in the first game against Adil Rashid, I still felt the way he got out. I actually saw it as a positive. Because he's generally, especially in the last year and a half, he's got bogged down to spin very often, especially leg spin. He's bogged down and eventually just tries to play them off for 100, 120 strike rate, and that definitely cost the team. But the way he came out and tried to attack him, I felt it was a massive positive itself, and you could see it in the next couple of games. Obviously, Ishan Kishan and Rishabh Pant's innings helped him a lot because in 155, 160 chases is basically Kohli territory, right? The issue comes when it's probably 200, 210 where he has to hit from ball one. But when he had Pant and Ishan Kishan trying to hit from ball one, took the pressure off him completely as well, and it definitely made a difference in terms of his performance. And it was a you could say a calm Kohli chase where things went very smoothly from start to finish. But today was definitely different. Batting first, again India got off to a very iffy start in terms of both runs and wickets. We were, I think, 24 for 3 in the power play, I think, if I'm not wrong. So definitely pressure was on his, and Rishabh Pant's partnership was very good. Obviously, Pant getting out was very unfortunate in the way he did. But I think Kohli played really well, especially towards the end. It was something like what we saw in the 2016 World T20. Some of the shots, the way he was basically anchoring through the final few overs, he basically wanted, especially those couple of deliveries of Mark Wood, just the delivery before it, he stayed back for the short ball, whacked it over mid wicket. He was 100% sure Wood was going to follow it up with a full one and hit it over long off. That was genuinely peak Kohli in terms of, because it's been a while since we saw a vintage Kohli innings, right? I mean, obviously there's been the pandemic, the fact that he's not been in the greatest of touch recently also, but I think it was genuinely great fun to see Kohli bat, and I liked his approach today. I think it was pretty decent. Obviously, he took his time in the start, and you could have questioned if he had gotten out at that point, because India would have definitely been in massive trouble at that point because he'd taken up the deliveries as well. But he more than made up for it. He scored 48 of 16 balls, so you can't question his approach today. But of course, I think Kohli's performances overall have been pretty decent. Positive, of course, him getting some time out to bat, and I hope that he gives our guys around him a lot of freedom to play the way they want to play, because I think this Indian team has to evolve in several different ways, and one of the most important things is they bat freely. I think there's a little bit of pressure on everybody. I think the pressure needs to be taken off, and they all need to be encouraged to play properly, because I think India won't win the world. We won't win the World T20 unless we play in a positive, aggressive manner. And England, I mean, no better example than the opposition today. England, for the past 4.5 years, ever since the 2015 World Cup debacle, Owen Morgan deserves a lot of credit for the way he's inculcated the entire team, encouraged the team to play freely, and you saw the fruits of it in the 2019 World Cup, and even today. I mean, heading into the World T20 as things stand, they're definitely favorites, right? So it shows that this approach pays off, but you need a captain to be completely in sync with it, because it's very important. It's a high risk approach, but the captain, if he backs it and the players around him also follow it to the T, I think it can work brilliantly for India.
Yeah, as you pointed out, definitely the change in approach has to be made. It's now or never at the moment for Team India's T20 team is concerned. I think definitely we've reached that point. But apart from that, I think, as you said, Kohli has always been one guy who plays the situation well. In the second T20, he knew when to attack, he knew when to defend. When Ishan Kishan was going well, he gave Ishan Kishan much of the responsibility and the strike to just take on the English bowling. When Pant came in, he did the same. Pant was at his expressive best, and he kept playing his shots, and Kohli was still holding fort at one end. But then, when the finishing touches had to be applied, he did it all by himself. So that was the approach in the second T20, and today he had to actually shift through almost 5-6 gears. That was the kind of innings that Kohli played today. He had to make sure that he blunted the early efforts of Mark Wood once we had lost two quick wickets up front. Then he had to play the spinners well, made sure that we kept getting more than run a ball every over or in the middle part. Then once he lost Rishabh Pant, he had to take the odd risk every over. But then it got to a point that when Hardik was not middling the ball, when in the first 8 balls, I think Hardik got only 4 runs. So even Hardik was finding it difficult to middle the ball, and he had to take the onus on himself and score Hardik's runs as well. So I think that's where the Markud over came in. It was I would say, the turning point when it comes to that particular innings from Kohli. So yes, he had to shift through a lot of gears, and he did that with ease. It was not like a batsman who hasn't scored a century in a long time. It was not like a batsman who was struggling for form. He actually he actually did really well today. So with respect to India's batting, the one the one big I would say black mark on this Indian batting performance so far has been the form of KL Rahul. He's actually scored one run more than Surya Kumar Yadav in three less innings. That's the kind of form he's in. So we had to put it in literal terms for just the fun of it. That's all he's made. So you can actually put it down to a lot of factors. He hasn't held a cricket bat in an international cricket match for almost 4 months now. I think his last hit was the white ball series in Australia. He's been traveling with the team. He had a wrist injury. We're not sure how much he's recovered from that wrist injury. He's been traveling with the test team as well. So definitely, Nets is not the ultimate in Nets cricket is not the ultimate in international cricket. You still need to hit the ball, hit balls, and now in the center and make sure you keep scoring runs. So is this just a mind block for KL Rahul, or is he actually facing um, a mental block where he doesn't know how to start off the innings whenever India is setting the game?
I mean, I don't know how. I mean, I don't think it's fair to say that he doesn't know how to set the innings because I think his performances the last couple of years have been outstanding for India, especially in the white ball game across formats. I think T20s and ODIs have been brilliant, but I don't want to get ODIs into this at all. But T20, he averages what 40 plus strikes to over 145. He's been India's best T20 batsman for the last couple of years. I think with KL, as you mentioned, I think all those factors definitely come into play. He's not played for nearly 3.5 months. You could see even Hardik struggling. Hardik's also been on the same boat, being part of the white ball team. When obviously went back from Australia, didn't take part in the test, was with the test squad during the home series against England, but didn't play. I think, as you said, all as much as you can prepare and train in the nets, there's nothing like match practice, and those two guys are desperately short of match practice, and you can just see the way they played because both Hardik and KL. I mean, let's talk about KL first, but Hardik himself hasn't been able to get going, and you know how destructive Hardik is, right? So for him to not get going itself is a big surprise. And KL obviously is a top class player. I think it's just a case of him trying to get a few balls in the middle of the bat. He needs slightly a little bit of luck. The first game he got a very good delivery from Archer. The second game I think it was a poor shot. The way he played Sam Curran, he should have dealt with it much better. There wasn't much swing either. He just poked at one he should have probably tried to hit slightly harder at, or probably just left it. And today's one was obviously an absolute beauty from Wood, but you still expect better from KL, as you said. I think it's just a case of him trying to get a couple of innings together. He just needs a few overs, man. If he bats a few overs, I think he should be okay. It's important that India back him in the next two games. I'm pretty sure they will. I would be very surprised if they don't. It's a case of him trying to get some time in the middle of the bat, and sometime in the middle, and things will start flowing. I think India just need to back these guys and trust them because India's batting, obviously, as we know, the issue is we have too many anchors. We need someone like AL Rahul to play freely because at his destructive best, we know how good he can be, right? You cannot go back to a case of what happened to Rishabh Pant a year and a half ago, where he had a couple of iffy innings and then you drop him, create insecurity, and once you create insecurity, that's when you don't encourage players to play freely. And if you want to win the World Cup, especially the T20 World Cup, you need guys to play freely. You need guys to be positive in their intent, right? So in that case, I believe that India just need to play him through this form. I think he'll be okay. I don't think it's too serious at the moment.
Yeah, apart from that, I think yes, definitely KL Rahul's form is probably a major cause of concern. But we all know that he's an elite player, and he's always got the touch about him, and it's probably one or two knocks. He's probably one or two knocks away from getting back the form that he much needs at the moment. Definitely, KL
And Raghu is
Rahul's
also
role
mentioned.
probably, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Raghu is also mentioned. We already mentioned about the fact that once Jadeja is back, I'm pretty sure India will go back to six bowlers, and it's just to fit in an extra batsman, trying to give a guys much. I mean, if you play, say for an example, an Akshar Patel, you'll have to reduce one batsman, right? You'll have to probably bench someone like Ishan Kishan or the Shreyas Iyer. I think they just want to give these guys as much game time as possible and try to figure out the best positions for each of them. But once Jadeja is back, I'm pretty sure that it'll be Hardik at six and Jadeja at seven. Yeah, you can continue now.
Yeah, as you pointed out, I think once Jadeja comes in, if he slots in at seven, we get the balance in the bowling and we get the balance in the batting as well. That will probably settle the issue once and for all. So at the moment, it's more about identifying that number four batsman who's going to act, who's going to be sandwiched between Kohli at three and Pant at five. I think that's the only $1 million question that we have at the moment, and a
Who
lot
do
of
you
people
think
are
it should be?
auditioning for that role.
Who do you think
If
it
you
should be?
ask
I think
me,
it's punt at
if
four.
you
By the
ask
way, I
me,
think it's punt at four. I think if Rahul, Virat, and Rohit are the front, I mean Rahul, Rohit, and Virat are the top three. I think it's definitely punt at three because they definitely want the left-hand batter who plays. They want to basically take the pressure of Kohli, which is completely understandable because we've seen how he gets bogged down against leg spin, especially. So I think 100% we will see punt at four. There's no question about that. It's probably that five spot because Hardik is at six, fixed at six, and Jadeja is fixed at seven. Who do you think, if you had to pick a player right now, based on what you've seen, say the last couple of years also, who do you think fits best at five, in your opinion?
in my opinion, the best player at 5 would be Ishan Kishan, because he's done it for Mumbai. He's been a middle order player for Mumbai, and yes, only problem is it will overload our middle order with a lot of left-handers, and Hardik as the floater becomes very crucial. But I think Ishan Kishan and 5 will actually do a better job than almost all the people in consideration. You have to give Surya Kumar Yadav a good run for him to get settled into that middle order, and maybe trying to do something. Maybe if he's got to Surya Kumar Yadav can do the job at 5. I'm not saying Surya Kumar Yadav cannot do the job at 5. All I'm saying is, if you had to pick a guy who can hit sixes at will, I'd actually pick Ishan Kishan over Surya Kumar Yadav, because Ishan Kishan can do that. He can tackle raw pace. He can tackle good spin. I think Ishan Kishan has that balance in attack and defense for him to be a good number 5 for India in
And
T20.
one more thing I want to add. If Rohit and Rahul get off to a good start, I wouldn't be surprised to see someone like Ishan or Rishabh promoted three as well, especially if it's middle over. If those two guys bat, for example, 7 or 8 overs, and you would see generally teams employ leg spin generally, right? In the middle overs. Any team, whether it be England or South Africa, all these best teams, the best bowlers, then the spinners are generally leg spinners. You could see someone like Pant or Ishan Kishan promoted to take down the spin. Raghu's mentioned about Iyer at 4. The problem with Iyer at 4 is you've already got a top 3 with right hand bats. And Shreyas Iyer, in general situations, I'm not talking about a freak situation like being 20 for 3 at the end of 6 overs. I think he cannot do the role of being an aggressor, honestly. I don't have an agenda or anything against him, but personally, I think he doesn't have the game against raw pace, and that will definitely get exposed. I mean, even today we saw how many times have we seen Shreyas Iyer struggle against the short ball. Teams have generally focused. I mean, try to focus on that, and he needs to get better at that particular part of the game. But I'd like to have an extra left-hander in the middle of the order, apart from Rishabh Pant himself. I think it'll work very well, and we can generally take down spin because, especially in India, they're definitely going to play two spinners. I'm very surprised that Moeen Ali hasn't been playing for England. I personally think Stokes should move up to 3 and David Malan can be moved out of the side because I don't believe that Stokes can bat anywhere around 5 or 6 in Indian conditions, especially. So Stokes in the top 3 and someone like Moeen Ali giving the extra spinning option also will probably work better for them, but it's their choice, I guess. But I agree with your point in terms of Ishan Kishan being a very, very viable choice for number 5.
Yeah, another factor that we can consider for Ishan Kishan at 5 is we actually have good examples of other teams playing a lot of left-handers in the middle order. There's a reason to it. Now the game has moved forward in such a manner that leg spin has become the crucial, bowling strike bowling variety that the teams are assorting to. We see that almost all good T20 teams have at least one good leg spinner. You have Historian Santner, who bowl the same angle in New Zealand. We have Adam Zampa, who's doing a good job in Zampa and Agar, who are doing a good job in Australia. We have Adil Rashid in England. So I think as far as the approach of teams is concerned, all of them are shifted to leg spinners. So why would you stack your middle order with so
Even
many right-handers? Might as well play
and even
a
West
couple of
Indies.
left-handers, or maybe three left-handers, and do the job.
Exactly. Even West Indies, Hayden Watts, Junior, Fabian Allen, those are probably their first two choice. I don't expect Sunil Narayan to play for West Indies. So I think those two are
Same
their
goes
first good
for
leg spinners.
yeah, same goes for Sri Lanka with the one Indo Hasaranga. It's the same. It's the same case everywhere. All of them are shifted to leg spinners. Might as well play a lot of left-handers in the middle order. It's worked well for England. England have not found it difficult to score runs, or they've not been on the losing side of matchups that other teams have used. They've had a good balance with right-handers and left-handers. I think it's a good choice.
Exactly, I completely agree with you. I think it also. I mean, if you get someone like Ishan, you will probably then you'll have Ishan, Rishabh, and Jadeja. You'll have 3 left-hand bats and 4 right-hand bats. So even if there's leg spin or off spin, you should be able to tackle. And if you hypothetically see a top 7 of KL, Rohit, Virat, Ishan, Rishabh, and Hardik and Jadeja, all of them are pretty competent against both pace and spin. You can't definitely say that one of those guys are okay. They're very poor against one of. I mean, either pace or spin, right? All of them can definitely play pace and spin very well, and it'll complement India in terms of trying to one guy taking on his matchup very well. So I think Ishan will definitely work well for balance sake also.
Yeah, and as far as Ishan's approach is concerned, I think at the moment he's confident. We just have to make sure that he's given an extended run in the side, and he can build on the opening performance that he gave in the second T20. But apart from that, I think definitely Ishan Kishan is one play we have to try. We can't let this flame die off at the moment. I think we need to back Ishan Kishan a little more because compared to Manish Pandey, compared to Shreyas Iyer, I would probably say Ishan Kishan has shown that temperament to take on the barrage from the opposition bowlers, and he's actually stood up. So he's not been bogged down by the plans that they've had for certain for certain players. Almost all players are now worked out thoroughly with video analysis. But with respect to Ishan Kishan, there's been this certain issue where they've said that maybe sheer pace with a good short ball to his front shoulder is a weakness, but he stood up to it. I've seen him play some good pull shots as well. So I think
I
Ishan
mean,
Kishan
Kagis Rabath.
is a guy who learns quickly. Yeah, yeah, exactly. DC did do that. They did bowl a couple of short balls to his front shoulder, but he tackled that really well. I think yes, Ishan Kishan is a quick learner, and yeah, he'll come through. That's my opinion.
I think Raj's questions about whether India will go back to the fact of, I mean, go back to playing three spinners when that is as bad. I'm not sure. I think it again depends on which ground we're playing at and which team we're playing against. I think if you're playing in conditions like these, I mean, it won't be the worst thing to have three spinners in the lineup at all. You could have Hardik as your third fast bowler and Bumrah and probably either Bhuvneshwar or Natarajan as your second seamer and have Hardik as your third pacer. I think it obviously depends on conditions also because I mean, if you play it, for example, at Wankhede, you're definitely not going to play three spinners, especially Jadeja, Sundar, and Chahal. You're not going to play those three together, right? You'll definitely need an extra fast bowler in that case. So it obviously depends on who and where we play and against who we're playing. So it's more of a case of trying to fit in according to the conditions and the opposition at that particular point. It's a good thing that India have a lot of options in the bowling department. I think it's pretty sorted. The problem is obviously death bowling. Apart from Bumrah, who else is genuinely reliable? Obviously, Natarajan has done well in opportunities, but you still haven't seen enough of him. And when it comes to Bhuvneshwar Kumar, hopefully, fingers crossed, he can stay fit. So, slight question mark over that. So, but overall, I think India's bowling is looking in pretty decent shape at the moment.
Yeah, as you pointed out, definitely if we're going to, I think this Motera surface, the amount of pitches they have, I think this pitch will also be similar to Wankhede. If we play on this red soil wicket in Motera, I think it's going to be a fast-paced one. It's going to be some assistance for the fast bowlers early on. Under lights, I think the ball will do something in this wicket. So if that's the case, then I think we definitely need to play maybe three seamers. And if you're playing three seamers, then you probably have to think how the combination is going to be. Is it going to be two out and out fast bowlers and Hardik Pandya, or is it going to be one out and out fast bowler in Bumrah and maybe a bowling all rounder in Tagore and then a batting all rounder in Hardik? So there are combinations. I think the variety when it comes to the pace attack is definitely with India. I think on that front we are a little equipped. But yes, we might have to tinker a little bit with the spin bowling options to make sure that we actually play the conditions well. Um, it's a good headache to have some variety in your squad, but at the same time, if you do not play the correct combination on the correct wicket, you're going to be found wanting.
Talking about this series, what do you think India will go ahead doing, especially in the next game, for example? In terms of changes, what do you expect personally?
I would actually bring in Deepak Chahar. I would probably want Shardul Thakur to take a break. He's played three T20s. He's done reasonably well, but he hasn't got a chance to bat. So I think we'll probably not tested his batting skills at number 8. So in that case, I think Shardul Thakur should make way for Deepak Chahar. Uh, I'd probably give Yuzvendra Chahal a break and maybe try Rahul Chahar because he's the second leg spinner that we have in the bench at the moment. And if Yuzvendra Chahal is not available, then we have to fall back on Rahul Chahar. So it's always good to test out your immediate replacement just to be sure that they are ready to take up the mantle should the need arise. And apart from this, I think Sky has to play the last 2 games, regardless of who misses out. I think it's just very obvious that Surya Kumar Yadav has to play a couple of games, preferably at number 4, because number 4 is where Surya Kumar Yadav is going to be coming in if he's in the side, unless there is a matchup and they promote Pant. So you have to bring in Surya Kumar Yadav. I'm not sure at whose expense, but I think given that Iyer couldn't do much today, I think it probably be Shreyas Iyer making way for Surya Kumar Yadav next game. I would stick with Rahul at the top. Rohit has just come in, so I think Rohit should play the next two games. Kohli, if we win the next game, I don't mind Kohli taking a rest for the last game and maybe bring in the backup batsman into the side as well. But yeah, I think now the next two games are basically free hits. We just have to bring in most of the players who are on the bench now. Navdeep Saini has to walk into the team next match, regardless of who's available or not. So yeah, as you pointed out earlier in the video, I think a double change is possible. We might see Bhuvneshwar Kumar and Shardul Thakur making way for Deepak Chahar and Navdeep Saini. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I think England probably won't make a lot of changes. At best, I probably see them
I think
alternating with
Moeen Ali could
Mahmood
get
and
a
Tom
game.
Curran again.
I think
Yeah,
Moeen Ali could
Moin
get.
Ali could get a game. Yeah, Moin Ali could get a game. In that case, as you pointed out, I think David Malan might be the guy making way. So if David Malan is the guy making way, then either Ali bats at three or Bairstow bats at three, or even Stokes can bat at three. So Stokes at three is a good option because Ben Stokes actually needs a little bit of license to do well in T20 cricket. He's not a guy who can just come out and smash it from ball one. He needs a couple of balls to get his eye in, and once he gets his eye in, he can tonk anyone, be it a spinner or be it a fast bowler. So if you want to make the best use of Ben Stokes, then you have to actually have him in the top four. So I think that is something that England will probably try in the next 2 weeks.
I agree. I think in terms of India, as you said, I think I'd be very tempted to give both Navdeep Saini and Deepak Chahar a game in place of Bhuvneshwar and Thakur. Both of them have given game not done too badly at all. They're definitely in contention for the World T20 no matter what. So I'd like to see both of them get a chance. And as you said, in terms of batting lineup, I personally wouldn't be against Virat Kohli taking a rest. I really want to see Surya Kumar Yadav get an opportunity in the top three because top three, top four. I don't see him as a number five, number six player at all in my eyes. I don't see the point of playing someone like Shreyas Iyer at number six either. But they're just playing him because he played that wonderful innings in the first game. But I don't see him as a long-term number six option at all. So I think I'd much rather give guys who are likely to play when they come back. I mean, when the team's fully set and all that, you'd rather back guys who could play in their position, right? So maybe rest Virat. You could see maybe Ishan 3, Surya 4, Pant 5 next game in that scenario. So I mean India's batting again. There's a little bit of question marks over who plays where. But yeah, at the moment, I'd like to see those couple of changes. And bowling, as you mentioned, I'd like to see Rahul Jai definitely get a go. Chels probably also had not too much of rhythm. He's not played games at all since the Australia series also as well. So him probably getting a small break and Rahul Chahar getting an opportunity won't be too bad either. And as you said with England, I don't know if they'll drop Malan. I personally think they should. I wouldn't be surprised to see someone like Sam Curran make way also because at the moment those two, I mean Moeen Ali and Sam Curran, are the ones who are competing for the number 7 spot, right? And they're not using Sam Curran too much with the ball either. And in conditions like this, I think the second spinner could definitely be more effective than what a potential new ball bowler could. So I think I would be surprised if Moeen doesn't get a game in the next one. So yeah, I think those will probably be the changes. So if you guys have any questions, please do send in. We'll try to answer them. Yeah, Karthik, as you mentioned, I wouldn't be surprised to see Rahul Chahar working for Chahal. I think Chahal's looking slightly off shape. It can happen with bowlers. He's obviously a world class bowler. There's no question about that. A small break won't do anyone too badly, and it'll be nice to see Chahar how he does, especially against this English batting lineup. Because as you saw today, someone like Butler can take down anyone, so it'll be a good challenge for him as well, and definitely a good opportunity if he does get one. The other question is, will Sky get a chance? Yeah, I'd be surprised. I think Sky will walk in the next game. It's probably going to be for Shreyas Iyer. I wouldn't be surprised if I'd like to see it for it to be for Kohli, but yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what's going to happen on that front. If India had won, I would have been pretty sure that Virat would have taken a break for the next game, but with 2-1 down, I'm not really sure. We'll have to just wait and see, I guess.
Yeah, so that is definitely something that we probably have to look at because Virat Kohli will probably take a rest at some point. Ideally, the thought process would have been maybe if you maybe the first three T20s if he had won, then I think it was a straightforward choice for Kohli to sit out the last two games and allow Rohit to captain the side. But now the series is actually against India. We have to win the last two games in order to win the series. So that might actually push Kohli to play both T20s and make sure that India come out trumps. So with that, it's a wrap on this mid-series review. Thanks a lot, Anirudh, for joining us on this special episode. We do have tons of content coming up for the IPL and for the ODI series between India and England. So please do like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll be back with another episode. Until then, stay tuned. Bye bye.